Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the YGS COVID-19 Emergency Childcare Response webinar of Caring for Children While Others Care for Us. My name is Gwen Ichinosi-Bagley, and I have the honor of serving as a Youth Development Officer with the YMCA of Greater Seattle. Today, you'll be hearing about the Y's work with school-age childcare, including how we responded at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic and how we are continuing our work today. You'll also be hearing from a panel who will be sharing their perspectives, and we will close with learning a little bit more about how we're preparing for the future and how you can support that work. The youth development work in the YMCA is divided up into two areas. The first is the Youth Development Center of Excellence, which focuses on research, design, and development. Our out-of-school time work is led by Courtney Whitaker with a team of talented individuals. You'll be hearing from her a little bit later. And on the operational side of youth development, it is led by Megan Castellano and a large team spread throughout the county to deliver quality programs each day. With schools closed and many child care providers unable to operate, families of essential workers, including our paramedics, our doctors, hospital, custodial services, and so many more, found themselves needing a safe and nurturing place for their children to go while they worked, and they turned to an organization that is trusted in their community. Here is just one testimonial from a family from the Matt Griffin Y. I am thankful for the camp that you have for our kids, especially for the parents that have essential work and no one to watch our kids during when we are working. Without the Y, we would have been lost. Thank you so much for sending information every week about their activities and the safety elements. My son is so happy to be making new friends. Wanted to take a moment to share with you our overarching focus around our work with youth. Through our programs that serve young people from birth to 26, we aim to provide them with the skills, experience, resources, and support they need to be prepared for the future they choose. We welcome young people at any stage in their life as they continue to learn and grow. We offer a progressive suite of programs that keep youth engaged over their childhood. They're age and challenge appropriate. They're scaffolding learning at any point in age that they have. We also have shared goals within all of our programs. What you see here is our theory of change, and it's developed as a cross-section of our youth development professionals with Y families, caregivers, as well as youth themselves to create this theory of change. And our vision is a world where all young people believe they are empowered to advocate, to change, and contribute to their community, that they are connected, safe, capable, and confident. And we do that through a lens of equity and justice and strategies of collaboration, a commitment to developing youth development professional staff by delivering quality programs that are intentional in their design, to challenge you to try new things in safe and supportive environments and create meaningful connections to caring adult role models outside of their homes. The Y has an education and curriculum director that has developed a proprietary curriculum called Scaled Learning, and that is the foundation of our program delivery. We know that when we connect school-based learning with project-based learning, kids create real-world connections to what they learn in school. We align our work to the Common Core, National Arts Foundation, and National Science Standards for elementary school children. It is now my pleasure to introduce Megan, branch executive for school age programs. Megan joined the YMCA in 2016 as a program director with the West Seattle branch, and quickly through her leadership saw programs grow and expand. In 2019, she served as the district director for school age programs before stepping into her current role in 2020. Please join me in welcoming Megan as she shares with you the incredible work we have done in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Good morning, everyone. All right, so I wanted to start off by taking us back a few months to our pre-COVID times, where the Y of Greater Seattle was flourishing with our two models of before and after school programs, Kids University and School-Age Childcare. We were operating these two programs at 60 sites spread over South Snohomish and King County, serving over 3,000 kids per day. We were also on the verge of setting up multiple new programs for the fall that would have pushed our growth to almost 70 before and after school programs. Our goal in being able to serve all communities has pushed us to grow in areas of Seattle and other cities that were not being served by other youth-based organizations. We know that all kids deserve to have a safe place to be when out of school, and our programs are able to provide them with opportunity, education, and experience-based learning. Through our Play Everyday Recess program, we were serving 33 different schools throughout the daytime with the plan to increase that in fall of 2020. These programs allowed children to be a part of something during recess versus feeling left out or on their own. When COVID-19 hit, we had just finished pre-registration for our fall programs, with the majority of them being full or at capacity, and it was looking to be our largest fall yet with the addition of our new programs. In summer 2019, we had our safest and most impactful summer to date. We served over 3,600 campers per day association-wide in our day camps with 12 different models of camp. In preparation of summer 2020, we had secured multiple different camp locations, and once registration opened, we had surpassed our previous year-to-date registration by thousands of campers. We had also come together as an organization to make sure that in every community area we were serving campers for ages 3 through high school. With this comprehensive model of camp, we were preparing to create lifelong campers. When COVID-19 first hit, there was a need for us to quickly adjust what we were doing while working closely with the CDC and health departments to make sure that we were doing it safely. We were ready to face head-on the challenges of getting emergency childcare centers set up, but we needed to make sure that we were taking every precaution for our staff and for the kids in our care. All across the country, WISE followed suit and opened up emergency care centers to serve thousands of essential workers and kids in need. WISE were no longer just looked out for basic childcare. We were also becoming teachers, educators, emotional support leaders, and testing out new ways to care for kids in the midst of an economy that was being shut down. The Y of Greater Seattle was one of the first to reopen and quickly became a model of how to run emergency childcare. As we started out, we faced many changes in regulations to meet the Department of Health standards and to continue operating each day. Some of these included smaller group sizes, less kids per spaces, kids were not allowed to mix in between groups, there was no swimming, no playing on play structures, no sharing of games. Our traditional games such as tag and basketball could not be played and needed to be redeveloped. Staff did consistent and constant cleaning through high-touch areas. Every day, staff and kids did wellness checks and temperature checks upon arrival. No parents were allowed in our buildings or inside camp. And the biggest changes were the permanent social physical distancing, even in the classrooms, and the constant wearing of masks for kids and staff. As North Shore schools closed in early March, we were preparing to pivot our before and after school model to begin caring for families of essential workers and to provide free care to employees that were critical to taking care of others. 3 days later, all schools closed, and we were asked to expand our full day care model to 25 sites across King and Snohomish County. Every day, we were facing new and evolving guidelines from public health that caused us to pivot continuously to make sure that we were providing the safest workplace for our staff and kids and a safe and welcoming environment for kids ages 4 to 13. Once we began our response for essential workers with Camp Imagine, we were forced to rethink the way we program to incorporate online learning models, Zoom meetings, providing meals, and finding ways to keep kids actively engaged while respecting social distancing expectations. This included no lunches from home, minimal belongings brought in by the kids, multiple hand washing stations, minimal gym equipment, and no shared supplies in the classrooms. Children and staff were coming together each day, and while everyone was going through challenging times, we had an outstanding group of 140 staff that continued to come to work each week to provide the best experience for these kids. They celebrated birthdays, milestones, helped with classwork, learned about third grade research projects, and ultimately helped all kids graduate onto their next grade. They truly helped the families in more ways than one, and ultimately helped the kids through a time that was extremely stressful, uncertain, and did it with the fun and grace that made them stand out as true heroes during these trying times. We were also approached by new partners that had heard of our response and wanted to help support the programs that we were running for the kids. Boundary 10 provided funding to our sites to purchase new games and activities for our camps. They also provided funding for us to purchase materials and furniture for sites that we had set up at the last minute. Many of our camps were used to operating at schools and in community centers, and with the last-minute shutdown, we had no access to our schools and resources. These resources were crucial in helping kids feel like they had new supplies, materials, and that camp was a permanent place for them versus a conference room at the branch. We were able to partner also within our own organization with our hunger support teams to provide meals each day, and with our behavior therapists from our social impact center to provide resources for the kids that were having a challenging time with what was happening in our world. Through all of this, the one thing that kept us going was the gratitude from the families and the kids themselves. We were able to provide a service that not many could during these trying times, and we were able to give kids a sense of normalcy that would lead us into the summer months. We were able to serve 706 children from 288 schools for 66 days to get them through the end of the school year. Our typical summer camp season lasts 50 days, so we'd already surpassed that amount of care before entering into summer. As the months progressed on, we knew that summer could not happen the way we had envisioned. Once again, we took our knowledge and what we had learned from our time running Camp Imagine, and without hesitation, we threw ourselves into planning a new kind of summer, a way to go back to what we have always been known for and run a camp that was simple yet exciting, safe yet engaging, and a chance for kids to enjoy summer. We decided to focus on what we could still do and not what we couldn't, such as field trips, vendor-led camps, and swimming. Camp Classic is now being offered at 29 locations throughout King and Snohomish County. And while this is about 25% of what we were set to offer, we have found that the families utilizing camp are here because they are working to provide essential services. They are foster families, they are single parent families, and they are families experiencing tough times. For 10 hours per day, the kids at camp get the chance to explore, create, hike, and believe. We are serving over 850 campers per day and another 70 through our new virtual camp, Camp in a Box. Camp in a Box brings the fun and excitement of camp to kids at home through daily activities and Zoom calls. Camp is not without its challenges. Yes, the kids and staff wear masks, the campers can't rotate groups, and the staff have had to get creative for how you clean in a park. But all that being said, you wouldn't know the difference from summers past, as the kids are having a great summer. And as we head into the unknown of fall and an undetermined school year, we know that we have continued to grow our offerings, pivot our programs, and we will continue to serve each community and school district individually to be the community response organization that parents know, trust, and rely on. I'd like to turn it over to Courtney Whitaker, our Association Vice President for Youth Development Programs, as we head into our panel portion.
Thanks, Megan. I am so grateful for the work that you and your team have done to safely operate the programs this spring and summer that have really allowed kids the opportunity to connect with other kids and laugh and play, which we know they need so much at this time. I'm excited to moderate a group of folks who are what it's about for our community response, and we couldn't have done it without all these different aspects of our community response. So from a family perspective to a statewide coalition leader, we're going to hear a little bit about what it meant for them as we move through the spring and summer. First up, we have David Beard. David is the Policy and Advocacy Director for Schools Out Washington. We partner with David both locally and across the state to support out-of-school time and youth development work. David was instrumental in helping make sure that we, along with other providers, had the supports we needed to begin offering emergency care. David, can you share a bit with the group today about Schools Out Washington and how, looking across the state and King County region, you saw the field of youth development pivot to meet the needs of families this spring?
Yes, can you hear me okay? All right, thanks for having me today. I'm with Schools Out Washington, and we're a statewide intermediary that supports expanded learning opportunities, which includes school-age childcare and youth development, along with other programs. And we provide technical assistance and quality improvement work, but we also do advocacy for this field. So first of all, big thanks to the YMCA, both of Greater Seattle and all over the state, for pivoting at lightning speed and for really standing up not only amazing childcare, but amazing virtual opportunities for kids, and just really trying to keep kids engaged and quite frankly, what is a world full of chaos for them. So big thanks to you all. You know, what we saw around the state was immediate, what do we do and how do we do it? Because there was no guidebook for providing care and services during a pandemic. And so I just saw, you know, the Ys and other providers stepping up to help out our families, both in terms of care, but and also helping them connect with resources. We saw you all trying desperately in the beginning around PPE, trying to make sure that all providers have what they needed to stay safe, for our kids to stay safe, to change up how normal operations in a way that could be through a lens of health and safety like we've never seen before. So just really saw that pivot. And I don't think pivot's the right word, because you're truly going 180 from how you would normally do things to how you had to do things during COVID time, and in a way where you didn't know what parents really needed, because parents didn't really know what they needed, right? Or our teens and other kids. So just saw a lot of shape shifting and really trying to meet the needs as things were evolving really week by week. I mean, in some cases, day by day, especially in the beginning. Another way that the YMCAs in particular has played a really great role at this time is through advocacy, is letting our policymakers at all levels of government know why this field is important and the work that we're doing, and how our field had to really pivot at a really crucial time in a way that other fields of service to children, youth, and families maybe weren't able to pivot quite so quickly. So big kudos to you all as we continue to have to figure out how we're going to serve kids moving forward. Yes, I'm happy to entertain other questions or provide more thoughts to any of those points.
Thanks, David, so much. I know personally, I am grateful. David and I probably spend, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours a week together on Zoom calls and working collaboratively. And I know that David's support has been essential as we've navigated this new landscape and tried to figure out where we're headed. It's like you suggested, it is a roadmap without any directions or maybe even lines. And so it's been great to have David's advocacy and support for the field of youth development, but especially at the Y. So up next, we have Caitlyn Moray, who is a parent who utilized both Camp Imagine. Oh, sorry, moving back. I am sad to say that unfortunately, we are unable to have Natalie Campbell joining us today. Natalie is the Community Partnerships Director with the North Shore School District. And as you can imagine, our school partners are really busy planning for what is a new fall and return to school for them. So unfortunately, she had a conflict at the last minute, but as Megan had shared earlier, North Shore was the first school district that we jumped into this pool with. They were the first to move to remote learning, and we were so grateful for their partnership. We had dentures. We got things right. We got things wrong. We were able to work collaboratively together as we moved into supporting all the other school districts throughout King County this spring. And we are already hard at work working with Natalie on planning the fall and how the Y will partner in the North Shore School District to support their 100% virtual model. So we are excited to continue that work, but sad that Natalie wasn't able to be with us today. So next up, we have Caitlyn. Caitlyn is a parent who's utilized both Camp Imagine and Day Camp Classic from the North Seattle area. She has 2 kids, Alistair and Ewan. And Caitlyn, we'd really love to hear from your perspective about the challenges you faced as a family as a result of the pandemic and how the WISE programs helped you meet those needs that emerged.
Absolutely. Thanks, Courtney. And thanks everybody for the opportunity to be here and represent the perspective of the families whose lives have been indelibly changed by the work of your teams. As Courtney said, I am a mom of 2 boys, Alistair and Ewan. When the pandemic began, they were in kindergarten and 1st grade at West Woodland. And they had been participating in Y programming since the moment they were old enough to do so. So they do Kids University, they participated in Camp Classic during the summer times. And then of course, when the pandemic began, we were lucky enough to enroll in Camp Imagine. And I swear I will never forget the day that I got an email from Miranda saying that Camp Imagine was going to come into fruition, because it was my second day of attempting to homeschool my children. The first day had gone okay. I rang a bell. I had a visual schedule. I felt like I was on top of my game and I was going to be able to do it for the 2 weeks that we initially believed that schools were going to be closed. And then my second day, I got paged by work every 6 minutes. My kids watched about 12 hours of television, and I had to continually put myself in timeout. And it was that day that I got Miranda's email saying, hey, we're opening up this camp. Would you be interested? And I'm not sure I've ever responded to an email as quickly as I did, with tears running down my face, because I felt like we were going to be able to make it thanks to the Y. So when I think about the difference that the Y program has made for our family in the last few months, I think of it in sort of 3 buckets. The first is the benefit for my boys, and that is far and away the most important thing. It's hard to understand how this chapter in their lives will impact them. It's hard to understand how they will remember it, but I worry far less about kind of the lasting negative impacts of these events, because they have had the consistency provided by the Y. They are really busy boys, as many 6 and 7-year-olds are. So the ability to get out of the house every day and see their friends and see the counselors who they now think of as family, and to be physically engaged and mentally engaged and emotionally engaged all day long, I simply can't put a price on it. It's the greatest gift in our life. You know, every night we go around and say our gratefuls for the day, and the YMCA has been our grateful since March, just because it's given our boys some stability and some normalcy and joy during these otherwise really challenging times. So the second bucket of benefit I think of is for my husband and me. I work at Seattle Children's, and my husband also works full time. And so this has obviously been a very busy time for me professionally as well. And the ability to come to work and to do my job and to serve the community that I hold so dear, solely because the YMCA is there for my family, is remarkable. And it's something that I count my blessings for every day. As you can see, I'm at work right now. I'm one of the lucky ones who gets to leave the house, and it's entirely due to the Y. And then finally, the bucket I think about, which is harder to put to words, is the sense of community that the Y provides. This is a time when it feels like our social fabrics are being frayed in many different ways. And it is so heartening to feel like we're a part of a community that is coming together for each other. You know, I remember the earliest days of the pandemic when the Y, you were still working so hard to figure out what you were going to be able to do to support families. And there were a lot of days where Jesse would just sort of hold up his hands and shrug and say, I don't have any answers yet, but I can tell you we're working on it. And that was enormously reassuring at a time when there were a lot of unanswered questions. And from day to day, we didn't know what life was going to look like. And so to feel like we are a part of a community that looks after each other and looks around and says, how can we help at a time when it feels lonely, and these are isolating times, it's so incredible to know that we are a part of something that's making a difference in people's lives. And if I have any money left to my name when I die, it's all going to you guys. That's the only way I know how to thank you.
Thank you so much, Caitlyn. It is an honor that you trust us with your kids. And that is great to hear. So next up, we have Jenny Barr, who leads out on the program development of our school age programs and camps in the Youth Development Center of Excellence. Jenny's been doing this work for a long time, but she needed to flex some absolute new muscles as we tried to imagine how we might bring things to people right inside their homes. So Jenny, can you share with us a little about what innovative solutions we created in order to serve families virtually during this time?
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. So like Courtney said, I have been with the Y for a while, and when this all started, we sort of all threw our hats in and said, okay, what can we do to bring programming to families? We have limited space for families to come to us. Some families are not comfortable sending their children to our programs, which is understood. So what can we do to help families out? So we came up very quickly with a website that we are calling the YMCA Family Room. It started in mid-March and really kicked off in April. And in the Family Room, we have content for families that include enrichment activities. We have camp activities. We just started with some sports lessons and tutorials, and I believe kicking off this week, we are doing a family circle time, live classes of family circle times. We also include videos from some of our preschool teachers for activities that our preschoolers can do. Our youth who may have been in our programs or not can also jump on and do live arts and crafts, or not live, excuse me, recorded arts and crafts with our teachers and see familiar faces. It gives families an opportunity to have some of that enrichment that they may not have because a lot of our programs are not running at this time. We do update daily. We update daily with different activities. We have over 70 different blogs on there right now, and we are averaging about 5,000 visits a month since April. So very exciting things. Parents seem to like it and enjoy it, and it's an opportunity for them to bring the Y into their home. The next thing we thought of, and definitely dove in headfirst on this one, is Camp in a Box. So we knew that everyone is not able to come to camp this year. You heard Megan say we had over 5,000 registrations before the pandemic. So we wanted to figure out how we can bring camp to families, and that is how Camp in a Box started. So we are running 6 weeks of Camp in a Box. We're currently at the beginning of week 4, and we are providing families a platform for their kids to socially engage with other campers, to have some daily activities, to meet with kids and counselors in their homes. So each week, families will register and they get 4 art projects, 4 STEM or outdoor environmental projects, and then along with some physical activity recommendations for the week. We provide them a box with all the supplies they will need for that week to complete these activities. And then each day, we have 2 Zoom sessions. We have one in the morning where the campers log on. We have counselors on there. They go through a morning assembly, which includes songs and games, and then they look forward to the day to see what they will do, what activities will be done. These are half-hour Zoom calls. They sign off and they get going on their activities, typically 2 each day. In the afternoon, we jump on again. It's the same kids, it's the same counselors. They build that sense of community, and we again sing songs, play games, and then they get to reflect and share their projects. So they show their projects, they let the other campers know what they did and why, and our counselors really dig in and get them answering some deeper questions about each project. And in addition to that, we do also add in family talk cards. So each family will get a deck of cards that they could have deeper conversations with their families, not only the kids who are at camp, but the whole families, and do some activities that do not require supplies. So for our superhero week, they built a fort that a superhero would live in as a family, and then in the fort they discuss different powers that each of them would have. So all related to a theme. Since the beginning of that, we've really seen numbers increase, and about 80% of the participants do return week after week. So that's where we started, and then moving into the future, we are hoping to take Camp in a Box and move it to Y in a Box, and provide the same type of programming for families while their kids are not in school.
Thanks, Jenny, so much. I know how grateful I am to have you on my team and that you have been willing to kind of dive headfirst into this pool with us and design and create new virtual opportunities for families. We even had our annual Healthy Kids Day this year in April, still able to happen by moving to an online virtual goose chase scavenger hunt, which you and your team spearheaded. And I just really appreciate the fact that we are continuing to look at how can we create normal in this kind of abnormal world right now. So thanks, Jenny. All right, we're going to transition to taking some questions from our audience. So feel free to add in questions. The first one I'm going to send to Gwen. And Gwen, we have a question around how the Y will support the care and educational needs for teachers who have children.
Thanks, Courtney. That is definitely a question that's on top of our mind as well. With our teachers going to full-time distance learning, how do they do that and care for their own children? And so we are working with each school district to understand their needs, and then what options can we create to ensure that our teachers are supported during this time. So more to come on that, but definitely an area that we are committed to working through.
Thanks, Gwen. The next question we have, I'm going to have Megan start, and then I think David said he maybe wanted to answer a little bit about this one too. So how has the Y childcare programs partnered with area meal programs? For examples, are kids getting backpack meals? How are we making sure that kids have meals at this time? Megan?
Thanks, Courtney. We are pretty lucky at the YMCA that we have a very strong hunger initiatives program and staff, and they have been providing meals since the pandemic started, not only to our families, but also to the community. So we are able to utilize them to make sure that all campers have meals when needed. We have them all throughout Camp Imagine. They also partner with local community resources to make sure that families have meals on the weekends. Our school district partners have been phenomenal in making sure that they are able to get meals out to our campers' families through the week and on the weekend. So we've been really lucky to be able to work with them to make sure that none of our campers are going hungry. We have plentiful snacks and meals each day, which has been incredibly helpful in making sure that the campers have a good day, and that also we can be able to support them over the weekend when we don't see them.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, I mean, that's a great question because most kids are only getting their meals at either their childcare and after school program or school. So to step in right now in so many different ways to provide meals has been invaluable for many communities. And again, as Megan was saying, even outside of some of your regular campers and kids that are in your programs. And one thing I wanted to shout out the Ys for as well is both during and before COVID, the Ys played a great role at the state level in helping different kinds of providers and partners and working with OSPI to make sure that there is access to after school meals and to try and make that easier for programs. So sort of stepping outside of only your own role at the Ys and helping other folks is just another great service that the YMCA has provided across the state. So I want to thank you all for that.
Thanks, Megan and David. I think here's one more that came in, and I'm going to send this one over to Jenny. Jenny, as districts are planning to be 100% remote in the fall, will there be full-day childcare available for parents who need to go to work? Will there be internet access, study hours, possible lesson help? I know we're going to talk a little bit about that after the Q&A, but I didn't know if you wanted to just answer that quickly.
Yeah, I could help out there. So we at the Y, as announcements have been coming out about districts going 100% remote in fall, we have been setting up meetings to meet with all of the majority of the King County school districts to see how we can help. The few we have talked about being able to help with the studies, depending on what it looks like. Also having internet access for the students there to get on their Zoom calls or their virtual learning or what they have to do. We are partnering with the districts we are in to make sure that they will have access to everything they need to be successful in school while their parents are at work.
Thanks, Jenny. And as I said, we'll dive into that a little bit more after we finish up the live Q&A. So here's a question for all of our panelists. What do you see as the greatest need for children in the future? And I'm going to start with you, David.
I think our greatest need right now will be social emotional learning and development. As was mentioned earlier, quite frankly, regardless of income, our kids are not able to socially interact with each other by and large, and that's such a critical piece of child development, really from pre-K through high school. And so organizations like the YMCA that are providing that as much as they can in person, but offering those opportunities virtually is an unbelievable need. And I'm actually a CASA, which is somebody that works with kids in foster care under age 12 through the court system. And I can say I was just emailing Gwen about what opportunities can we have for my CASA kid. She's been pretty isolated and already in the foster care system. And so having those virtual opportunities, including childcare, to just engage with other kids, let alone to engage and get support with academic content, will be super critical for all of our kids, and particularly those furthest from opportunity.
Thanks, David. Does anybody else on the panel want to take that one as well?
This is Katie. I'll chime in just to echo what David said, I think, and I'm speaking from the perspective of a parent of early learners. So for their age group, I think the social and emotional learning is equally, if not more important than any academic instruction they were receiving. And to be able to go every day and interact with their peers and continue to be mentored by their counselors is invaluable. And we're lucky enough to have been with Camp Imagine since its inception. And so it's hard to know what this experience would have been like without the programming offered by the Y, but I see it in the children of my friends and family whose kids are really struggling with emotional as well as social anxiety, just I think as a result of having their lives turned completely upside down.
Thanks, Caitlin. Jenny, do you want to answer that one as well?
Sure. I definitely am going to back David and Caitlin on the social emotional learning part of it, but I also think the socialization is so important for our younger and older kids. They have missed this. They have been, in their homes, and you have a small group to socialize with. Some they are not socializing. So I think even virtual that we've seen on, Camp in a Box or some of our other virtual platforms, just the energy and the excitement to socialize with other kids was so, you saw their faces light up. So I think also that social aspect is so important right now, whether in person or virtual, is something that's missing.
Thanks, Jenny. And that's actually a great segue to our next question from the audience, which we're going to send to Megan. Megan, for our current camps, how did some kids handle being back in a social environment after being out of school for the last few months of the year? Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like for kids and for staff to support them?
Yeah, I would say it was definitely a struggle for some kids who had been home since March, as they came back just to being around a group of kids, being around adults, just being back in that setting that they weren't used to being in. It was scary and fearful to a lot of them. And so, we were able to mitigate some of that by having the small groups that we have, and the fact that there's only one counselor with maximum 9 kids right now. It helped those kids kind of reconnect and be in a smaller group, so it didn't seem so overwhelming. We saw some of that fear start to go away after a day of doing some small group activities and starting to socialize again. But, to echo what the panelists said, it has been a shift in our programming of a lot of social emotional learning time with the kids, really paying attention to how they're feeling and being aware of things are scary right now for them, and making sure that we are cognizant of that and really adjusting how our camps operate each day, and taking that knowledge into the fall also. So, I think we've definitely seen an impact, but I think as time has gone on and the kids have been in camp for a week or two, or even a day or two, it started to lessen.
Thanks, Megan. So we're taking another one from the audience, and this one's going to go to Gwen. Does the Y utilize trauma-informed care? How is the Y addressing the trauma children and families have endured throughout this pandemic?
Thanks, Courtney. That's such a great question. I would say a couple of ways. One is we've been doing trauma-informed care training for the past couple of years with staff, especially just ensuring that as we work with youth, that we're able to be observant and responsive to their needs. And especially during this difficult time, we are also doing work with staff who we want them to be able to be resourceful enough to serve families and youth. We also have a great partnership with our internal collaboration of our Social Impact Center, and we have several behavioral specialists that work directly with our staff on a weekly basis to talk through situations, to help find ways that we can best support families, whether it be through Y services or that one of our community partners. And we will continue to do this work and bring in more resources. As we know, and as Caitlyn has shared, we're not really sure about the total impact that this pandemic will have on youth. So we want to be able to be supportive to them in this environment and make sure that our staff are properly equipped in order to meet the various needs of youth.
Thanks, Gwen. We've got questions coming in so fast that I haven't had a chance to cue somebody up for this one. So I might actually take this one. This one just came in. I might have missed this, but how is this all being funded? Are families paying the actual cost? Knowing the Y, I doubt it. Does the Y have the funding needed for fall programs, or is this possibly a limiting factor to what can be provided? So I'll kick us off, but then any of the panelists that want to join in, feel free to join us. So, funding has been a tough challenge as we stepped up in March with no real thought about how we were going to get paid or how things were going to happen, but we knew that our essential workers needed to have care for free, and we needed to meet the need right away, to not take time to figure out all the logistics and mechanisms, but to make sure that those who needed to go to work every day caring for our community had the ability to do so. Since then, we've worked with our school partners and school districts. We've worked with the legislative body, Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services, to look at a variety of ways to support the cost of these programs. But we have been really lucky that a lot of local donors stepped up in the community to make sure that we had options to support the spring care, which was, even with reimbursements from school districts and DCYF, we were still, covering about 50% of the cost internally and making sure that families were able to access the program for free. As we move into the fall, we continue to know that there is potentially a gap in what really families can afford and what the true cost is of providing this full day care. So we'll continue to be looking for local philanthropy, working with David at an advocacy level to see what we can do to have support from the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, as well as school district partners. Is there anybody else who wants to answer that one as well?